are live. It is Empire State of Baseball for episode number 84 on this Tuesday, May the 14th, 2024, airing on Twitch, X, and YouTube. And as always, powered by StreamYard. And that was going to be a question for later on tonight, so spoiler alert, but
no
here
one
we are.
screenshotted that.
Another
I didn't even see it, so it's okay.
Of Empire State of Baseball. And we're spoiling already one of our segments for later, but we'll get into some of those segments that we got on for tonight's special Tuesday edition of the show. We'll throw it around the room. Thomas, how's it going, man? How's everything been?
It's good. Had a good Mother's Day weekend with the wife and the kiddo. Got to do some little fun activities. Went out for a brunch. It's good times.
Yes,
yeah. Mother's Day spent with my mother-in-law and my wife's family. That went well. It was a decent weekend up until you get to watch the Met games. Those disappointed, except for the Mother's Day game. So we've been a little up and down with that. But, you know, we got a good week ahead of us, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. No, I echo the same. It was a very nice Mother's Day weekend. Just very busy. A lot of running around. Didn't have too much time to watch the games this weekend, but thankfully did catch the 9th inning of the Sunday night game, the Brandon Nimmo walk-off. But it's been a lot of gloom since then. Very rough start to the Phillies stretch, but it's a gloomy Tuesday as well, but happy to be here with you all.
Absolutely. Happy to be with you all. And like the guys alluded to before, a happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers out there that were celebrating over the weekend. And before I turn it over to Corey Favs with tonight's lineup, let's take a look at our chooches in the chat. We have Sierra in the building saying, hello, New York baseball fans. She's inclusive now. She's including both the Mets and Yankees side of the house. I love that, Sierra. Very good. We also have Hitman in the building. What's good, ESB brethren, doing some great things over on the Spaces. Got multiple shows with Yankees Vibes, Boogie Nights, which is up and coming space on Sunday nights. Shout out to my guy Boogie as well. Donnie Clark, salute to you. Corey Favs again, keeping the numbers up. We love that. Jack Esposito, what's up, boys? Let's go. Jack, a big Rangers fan, and Rangers fans like me, a little worried right now. The series is 3-2. Headed back to Carolina. It's going to be interesting for the rest of the way. Shout out to the New York Rangers and our guy Ghost. What's going on, Mr. Ghosty? All righty. Let's get right into it, folks. And we're going to start everything off like every episode with our lineup. So Corey Favs, take it away. What's our lineup for tonight?
Yeah, no, we got a busy show here tonight, and pretty much as usual, we're going to start out with the Empire Express and give you the latest news in New York baseball for both the New York Mets and the New York Yankees. We'll then go to our New York Strike Exchange segment. This is running from the end of April, roughly April 29th, through the first couple of weeks of May, May 12th to be specific. We're then going to debut a new segment called Who's on Deck. This is going to be a pretty fun segment as we're going to dive into some prospects in both the New York Mets and Yankees systems. So looking forward to debuting that tonight. And then finally, we'll be ending it with our game segment, a player to be named later, where two of the hosts will be proposing a player based on the hints provided. The rest of us will try to guess who that player is. So always a fun time when we go to the player to be named later game.
Absolutely. Going to be a lot of fun. And as a reminder, we're not only just live streaming on 3 platforms, including Twitch and X, but mainly on YouTube. And if you're joining us on Twitch and X, we thank you so much. But come on over to the party over on YouTube. That's where you're going to be featured in all the comments and the great threads that we have here. We have 30 people in the building, which is amazing considering the different date change. And with the Knicks on as well for their own Game 5 of their playoff series. So, this is really appreciated. Thank you guys so much for joining and sticking along with the schedule changes. And we will be back for Monday next week. So thank you very much for that. And just a couple more highlights right here. Our guy, Matt Tucker, Mr. Chooch himself, is in the building. What's going on, sir? Good to see you in the chat. And we have Fun Humble Guy. It's a newcomer here coming in from X. Let's go, Knicks. Thank you, Fun Humble Guy. And Ryan P. What's going on, Ryan? 34 people in the building. So, guys, just make sure, if you haven't already, make sure to smack that like button and share the link out to your friends and family. And let's talk some New York ball. We kick things off, as always, with the Empire Express. So, Joe Pugliese, what's going on in New York's Mets world? Take it away.
Yeah, Mets are 19-21, falling to fourth place in the NL East. They have lost 2 games in a row to Philadelphia after a riveting win on Sunday to salvage a win against the Braves in their series. Nimmo, who had side issues, hits the walk-off homer there. But ever since then, it's kind of been downhill for the Mets. And it basically comes down to 2 problems with the Mets. Offense is not scoring runs. I mean, you see the ranks there. The pitching's been fine, except minus the walks. They're having a lot of walk issues, but it really hasn't hurt them to the extent you would expect. But the offense has just been terribly inconsistent. And all of a sudden, we seem to have an Edwin Diaz problem on our hands. Blew another save last night. And let's be real, Edwin has not looked the same. His last 7 innings, he's given up 5 earned runs, 3 home runs allowed. I mean, this is the Edwin Diaz that was giving up home runs back in 2019 when the Mets first got him. He just looks a little off, a little rusty. We'll start with him. His velocity is down a couple miles per hour. He's averaging 97, 98 instead of 100, 101. And he just looks like something is not 100%. Granted, he's coming off of an Achilles injury. He didn't throw an entire season. Your mechanics are bound to be a little out of whack. Not trusting that leg, the works. But the Mets really need to get the best version of Edwin Diaz to keep pace. They can't afford to lose games that they're ahead, especially with the offense being so hot and cold. And I think it's time to start worrying a little bit that Edwin might not be right this year, that this injury might take a little bit more time. He's not a starting pitcher where he gets 5-6 innings a start to figure out his mechanics, to figure out if he can get himself into that right set. He gets 1 inning each time. And if you're a little off and you're not 100% back from your injury, that 1 inning, it can be amplified, especially in the closer's role. So a little concern for Edwin here, a bigger concern for the offense, but Edwin's my main concern because it's just such a stark difference from where he was at before he was injured.
Yeah, no, I completely agree that something's up with Edwin right now. And listen, he did miss a full year. And whenever you're missing a full year with the leg injury, we all know how important the leg is for pitching. It's more so the leg than the arm. That's what really drives your ability to pitch as a pitcher. I saw a lot of tweets last night comparing him to the 2021 Edwin Diaz. The numbers right now are eerily similar. But the thing right now with him, it's the velocity is a little lower. But on top of that, his control looks a bit off. He's not getting that tight, crisp slider right on the edge of the outside of the plate like he was doing all of 2022. Obviously, his fastball is a little lighter, so a little easier to hit. He's just missing way in with his sliders to lefties. That was such a great pitch he had versus lefties, was that low and in slider that was off the plate enough to get some swing and misses. But he's missing it so far in that it's not even drawing any swings. And the one time it did draw a swing yesterday, the umpire completely blew the call. That's a whole different conversation. But what's really unfortunate with Edwin Diaz right now, too, is in 2022, if you had a 1-run lead going to the 9th inning or even the 8th innings, I know Buck liked to use him a lot in the 8th, too, you knew that game was set and in the bag. And when you have an offense that's not a top 5 producing offense, struggling to score runs, any lead you want, you really want to lock down. That's why last night's really hurts, because the Mets did put up 4 runs last night. Game they should have won. Winning the whole game up until the very end there. Hope to see it. One thing, too, to call out with Diaz, too, I saw a statistic today, was that his performance this season in games where he's had a day of rest versus back-to-backs or minimal rest is such a vast difference, because he's pitching to a 1 or sub 1 ERA when he has multiple days rest. his ERA was like 0 point something. And then his ERA on back-to-backs was close to 10. So it's a really incredible distance there. And I think a lot of that, too, is he's just got to work through it this year, hopefully get back to form. If this is Edwin Diaz for the remainder of that big contract, we're in trouble. That's a lot of money. I still think he has the stuff to be a great closer, but he's just not going to be that elite guy this year, which we were used to in 2022.
I said it before, and I'll say it again. The only position in sports more fickle than relievers in MLB baseball is place kickers in the NFL. You hope that Diaz, as a baseball fan, he hasn't just lost it. But listen, we've seen great closers lose it, and he had the injury, which is definitely gonna could help that. Now people have found it again, but it's also possible. There's not a lot of closers, if you look in the history of baseball, who have been the best closer in baseball for even usually 5 years in a row. They usually fall out. That the greatness that was Mariano Rivera he was that great for 15 years or 15 years plus. That was his consistency was what made him that special. Diaz, I think if you look at the numbers there, even he has the strikeouts. So it was 11 strikeouts in 7 innings. That's Diaz strikeout number. So, maybe again, it is a mechanical thing. He has to get fixed up there. But
here's the other thing in defense of Diaz. Diaz has pitched 16 2/3 innings so far this year. He only pitched 3 2/3 innings in spring this year. He has pitched less than 20 innings in game action since he came off basically a debilitating leg injury. So in fairness to Diaz, what pitcher do you expect to do that coming off an Achilles injury and be automatically great right out of the gate? It's
the
very
4 people on this show who put him as the number 1 reliever in baseball.
He started out hot, but yes, that's we kind of expected him to kind of go back to the old ways. But listen, my bigger issue with the Mets right now is the offense. The offense is not hitting. I'm sick of seeing guys like Jeff McNeil. I've been a huge Jeff McNeil supporter, and I'm tired of seeing him. He can't hit. He's got a confidence issue. I don't know what it is. Every single player on this team drives me up. Omar Narvaez is a complete waste of time. Marte was back. All of a sudden, Marte's hitting $150 in his last 10 games. Lindor is 10 for 15 and then 0 for his next 21. Alonso
Neil's still thinking about Rhys Hoskins in that slide. I think he's still torn up about it, about the very least slide that happened.
It drives me nuts because the only person with any consistency in the lineup is Brandon Nimmo. It's the only person. And it's like we guys sit here and watch him. And the Alvarez injury has killed this team. Alvarez was such a big spark in that lineup. He added some pop. I like JD there, but JD has kind of gotten off to a slow start. He started to heat up recently, but there's nothing jiving in the lineup. And Carlos Mendoza we got to change something up here. We can't keep running out the same freaking lineup every single goddamn day.
Whoa.
It's crazy.
Can
we put Alonso in the 3-hole? Can we do that for once? Can we have Alonso batting 3, JD batting 4? Can we put Lindor either 2 or 5 and Marte the other one? Can we mix it up a little bit? And
I gotta tell you what.
I
gotta tell you what, Joe. Doesn't that sound a little familiar of another manager across the town? I don't know if your current manager has any affiliation with Aaron Boone or the Yankees.
It's the same thing. It's the same lineup day in and day out.
I mean, to be fair, the Yankees changed their lineup 1,000,000 times last year. So Boone changed. The Yankees used the same lineup like 4 times all of last year. They were always different. So
yeah, and we'll see it too. I mean, with the lineup too, you said it, Joe. Brandon Nimmo has been one of the more consistent players. I'd like to see Brandon Nimmo maybe in more of an RBI spot. I loved him personally as a leadoff hitter because his ability to draw walks and make contact. But they were talking a lot in spring training about maybe moving him into the 2 or 3 hole just to try to give him an RBI situation, switch things up. Honestly, if something's broken, try to fix it. This is the opposite of the traditional saying. So try to fix it. Try to get creative. If you want to move Nimmo into an RBI spot, I'm cool with it. Marte's got some speed. Lead him off. Try something different. But the Alvarez injury, too, before we jump to the Yankee side of the house, I got to agree. I mean, that Alvarez injury is really when it felt like the team started to shift because they came off of a very nice winning West Coast road trip. The vibes were high. Team was looking good. Alvarez got hurt, and you lost premium offense at a traditionally weak offensive position, and the defensive side of the ball does not get enough credit. Alvarez's ability to frame pitches helps his pitchers, and the ERA of the pitching staff with Alvarez versus Nito or Narvaez is a difference of about a 2 ERA to a 4.5 ERA. Just
all right, let's talk about a good baseball team. Let's move on to the New York baseball Yankees.
Before I do that, I just wanted to give some love out here because Alana is still showing Twitch love. So when the numbers are up for Twitch this week, because there was one viewer, it's because of Alana. So thank you very much for that. Shout out to my guy, Boogie. Yes, we waived the subscription fees. I could have made a fortune off of Boogie. He's so old, he thought he actually had to pay for a YouTube subscription. Really could have taken advantage of him. But thank you, Boogie, for showing up. And my guy, Chris N., the trumpet sounds like a clarinet. ESB, what's going on? Now, Chris, I got to shout out Chris. He's a huge Knicks fan. He's doing work over at Yankees Pod. He's doing work over at Morning Brew Sports. He's a Knicks zealot. And yet he said, Rich, not only am I going to watch the Knicks game, but on my right, I'm going to be watching ESB. So I thank you so much for your support, sir, with the Knicks are going on with the Indiana Pacers. But yes, Thomas, let's talk New York Yankees baseball. How's the general feel on the Bronx Bombers?
Feels good. Currently up 2-1. Feels like it's going to be a wacky game in Minnesota. It's not a Ruco series, which we know is the ultimate red flag for wacky games. But Rodon gave up a hit in the first. Twins hit the ball hard. The Yankees have 5 hits through 2 innings. It feels like this is going to be one of those games, one of those series in Minnesota. How they tend to be, but gotta feel good as a Yankee fan. Coming off a good weekend, a good week overall. Against Tampa, taking two out of 3. I forgot who they played for a second there. I didn't watch a ton of the games. It was pretty busy this weekend, but they looked good in Friday and Sunday. Especially Sunday is a game that felt like they were just going to give away. They had the big lead. They let the Rays back in. It felt like a typical game that the Rays were going to just ray their way back in, and the Yankees were going to crumble. The 2022 Yankees, the 2023 Yankees would have crumbled. But this team didn't. They stepped up. Gleyber with a huge homer. Trevino had 2 home runs yesterday as well. So you gotta feel good about where the team is right now. They're hitting, they're pitching. The dare I say it, Yankee vibes seem good still with the team.
Oh, shout out.
They're fun to watch. It's a fun watch right now for the Yankees. What do you think? What do you think, Rich?
Oh yeah, no, things are going great. 8-3 in the last 11 games. Things were looking bleak after that Orioles series when the Yankees dropped 3 or 4 to a team that, Joe and I have had conversations. It's going to be an AL East that's going to flip-flop consistently throughout the 2024 campaign. I think anything else would be a surprise at this portion. And the Yankees are playing great ball on both sides of the house. And if I can, I'm just going to pull up that graphic once more of the Yankees numbers against the rest of the league. You look at where they're first in on-base percentage, first in OPS. Yes, it definitely does help having that bad man on the right hand of your screen right there in your lineup. But they're doing it on both sides of the ball. Second in ERA, second in batting average against. Things are clicking. And guess what? I look at those bottom 3 numbers on the pitching side, and the factor who isn't a part of this is Garrett Cole. The Yankees are just getting solid outings from their starting pitching. Rodon's been up and down, but I think for the most part, Yankee fans are satisfied with what they're seeing from Carlos. Clark Schmidt is putting in a sub-3 ERA season, but the story for the starting rotation this year is a man by the name of Luis Hill. And we're going to talk about Luis Hill a little bit later, but I don't want to get completely into Luis Hill's success because the recent story, or at least the talk around town, the hype up, has been for some of the players coming off of injury. Jason Dominguez starting his rehab with Tampa. The Yankees looking at Tommy Kahnle. Oswald Peraza has been in the middle of rehab. But the one guy that I just mentioned before that had some people talking over the weekend was Mr. Garrett Cole. And Garrett Cole, of course, threw a bullpen this past weekend in Tampa Bay. And listen, when it comes down to it, you're looking at potentially a early to mid to possibly late June return for Garrett if all goes well. But for Yankee fans, Tom, this is hold your breath season for Garrett. You know, you had about that month and a half where you knew that, all right, Garrett's not going to be a non-factor. But now that he's beginning to throw, you're starting to think, what's going to happen to this rotation if Garrett Cole is healthy enough to crack this rotation by the end of June?
It's a real wait and see for me. The Yankees aren't going to rush Cole back. There's no guarantee. I know he's throwing. They say he's looking good. He's been throwing breaking balls, I think, as well as just fastballs. But there's no guarantee he comes back in June. There's no guarantee that if he comes back at the end of June or beginning of July that he's, you know, what you're going to get out of him. It's still a very fickle injury, what's going on in his elbow. So I'm not even thinking about Cole. I'm thinking of what we have in front of us, and almost with the assumption that we, you know, what we get from Cole is truly a bonus, because, you know, they're not going to be able to roll him back out there and he's going to, you know, throw 8 innings, you know, 115 pitches. Like, that's not going to happen at any point this year with him. You would assume so. So it's gonna be interesting. You wonder if, I know there's been a lot of talk of what happens with the rotation. I think it's another wait and see. Baseball tends to find, things find a way. You know, right now everyone's healthy in the rotation. By the end of July, maybe that's not the case. So maybe there is a spot for Cole. Maybe it's a situation where, again, you can't expect Cole to be pitching, you know, full games. Maybe he's piggybacking. Maybe he's pitching 3 innings, and then a Luis Heel is, you know, they're really doing those piggyback starts or something like that. I think a lot of things are on the table, and I'm just trying to, like, not even consider what could happen with Garrett Cole until I actually see him on the mound.
Yeah, definitely want to exercise caution with Cole. But think of it this way. I mean, even if he needs more time, even if you're, you know, I know he's expected to be activated. Well, the 60 is up at very end of May, roughly beginning of June. Even if this is something that goes closer to July, think of it as one of the best possible deadline acquisitions you could make getting him. And like you said, that pitching staff right now is really holding their own without him. You look at all the starting pitching right now for the Yankees, the only one with an ERA over 4 is Nestor Cortez. And he's actually been a little better as of late. He looked rough in the first few weeks of the season, a little better more recently, but his ERA is 4.02. So if that's your highest ERA, everyone else is in the 3s or 2s. You'll definitely take that without Cole.
Yeah, that's the key with the Yankees right now. They don't actually need Cole at the moment. So, you know, you want him there, obviously, but you don't need him. And so there's no rush to bring him back. So for them, they're going to make sure he is 110% ready to go. They're going to stretch him out. He's going to do his maximum amount of rehab starts that he's allowed once he starts his rehab assignment. And they're going to build him back up and bring him back as if it was April 1st of a new season. That's how they're going to approach this. The Mets are actually in a similar situation with Kodai Senga. Senga is working his way back. I believe he threw a bullpen session the other day. I'm actually curious to see which of the two come back first. They're on very similar timelines, so I think that's going to be kind of fun. And I wouldn't even be surprised if, when the Mets and Yankees play at the end of June, that you could see maybe a Cole and Senga season debut in that series. That would be kind of fun and interesting if it worked out that way. But yeah, I mean, that's the key. The Yankees are not going to rush. I think Jason Dominguez is in a similar situation, right? I don't think you're going to see Jason Dominguez, probably, unless you have an injury. One, he's not playing the field, and there's nowhere to put him. And two, you know, the Yankees have a full outfield. This kid's coming off a big time injury. I think he's going to be down. If you see him before September and no one's injured, I'd be very, very shocked. And so I think they're going to play it that way too. They don't need him to be there right now. So they're going to let him.
As things stand now, the one outlier would be I know we'll actually talk a little bit about Alex Verdugo in a few minutes here, but if Alex Verdugo is not producing for an extended amount of time, a guy on a 1-year contract, if Dominguez is crushing it in the minors, the Yankees, I think, would push that button and say, listen, Verdugo, you're a bench piece now. Maybe you're situational, and Dominguez is the starting left fielder or starting center field, however you're gonna switch things up. I could see them doing that. But I think Verdugo also, he has had a rough couple of weeks. I think he's going to be able to bounce back and be closer to what he was beginning of the season. And at that point, then I don't know what you do. You kind of have to figure it out.
Both sides, and I'm glad Joe brought up the Jason Dominguez thing too, because yes, he's absolutely right. I mean, on both sides of the ball, between the starting pitching and the outfield core, you have a good problem. This is a good problem, Yankees fans, where we're talking about our options here and trying to figure out who makes sense to go to the bullpen, who makes sense to go down, who makes sense to platoon. This is a great problem to have. This is a problem the Yankees haven't had in years with the amount of injuries they've had. Now, granted, it's May 14th, and to allude to what Tom said before, anything can happen between now and when the time comes for Garrett Cole and or Jason Dominguez to make their return. So
the roster today will not be the roster. The roster today will not be the roster at the end of June. There will be guys, 100%. Off of it.
I want to get to a couple of these comments here. Ghost here. I believe once Luis Hill reaches his innings, they will shut him down and maybe use him for the playoffs. Again, we're gonna touch on Luis Hill in a little bit. So
they said there's no stated innings limit on Luis Hill. So that also
they also say a lot.
I'm just saying they've said there is no stated innings limit. So I don't think it's like once you hit X, he's done.
Jack mentions here, Cole comes back. We ease him back with an extra day here and there. Then one starter goes to the pen. Hope not Hill because of the innings limit, which again, it is definitely a topic worth noting here. Sierra, it's not like last season when we were desperate for something to happen in September. And Boogie mentions Cortez goes down to AAA. Real quick on that, Cortez does have two options. Just saying, he has two options, believe it or not. So it's not the craziest thought.
I mean, they'd put him in the bullpen. That has some question marks before they'd set him down.
100%. He's relief pitcher stuff.
He's an established. To send him down, he would need to do like an Alek Manoah. He's an established major league pitcher. I mean, this guy's been in the majors now for 7 years. I don't know if they would need his permission to send him down.
He would have to be nasty Nestor for other reasons.
Plays into that.
God, Jesus Christ! Oh, Corey Favs.
Come on, Corey.
Favs,
I mean, nasty legend. Is in like he's terrible.
Jeez, 94 people in the building, and Corey Favaloro, you are a legend, sir. We're gonna talk about your baby Instagram, but I'm gonna let Joe do the talking this time. So, Joe, what we got? Latest and greatest with Instagram.
We are on Instagram. You can follow us at our Empire State Baseball page at Empire State of Baseball, where you have all of our reels, episode games and graphics and all that stuff. Corey Favs does a great job. Rich does a great job updating that every day. You can also follow Corey at Corey Favs, myself at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J Rivera, and Tom at T Wospil, all on Instagram for everything. We even post polls, memes, etc.
Remember when Joe said that Giancarlo Stanton wasn't a top 10 DH in baseball and he just hit another home run? I just wanted to remind Joe of that.
And he hasn't gone on the IL yet, and it's May 14th. So
we'll talk once he hits the IL. Disappears for 2 weeks, comes back and doesn't hit a thing for a month and a half, then we can talk.
Okay.
So, not that I'm wishing that he gets hurt.
I'm over here.
That's happening.
Yeah, I mean, you really are though. I was over here saying I hope Edwin is getting better and everything, and you're basically trying to kill Giancarlo Stanton, which is it's not below what you would do. You're that kind of guy, but. I'm not
rooting for him to get hurt, but if we're going off of history here, we know an IL stint is probably in Stanton's future one way or another.
There we go. Joe getting crushed by
I'm just saying. Here.
All right. Well, we're gonna flip to our bi-weekly bit. It's funny that when we brought the New York Strike Exchange back for the 2024 season, I initially thought like, hey, we were just gonna do it on one time of the episode and throw it to the social media. And honestly, it's been pretty much a hit here on the live stream. So we're going to keep it going with our April 29th through May 12th ranking. So this is the last 2 weeks, essentially, up until yesterday's games. I know that the Yankees were off yesterday. I think the Mets did play yesterday. They dropped that first game of their
Sure
weird
did.
4 games against the Phillies. They played 2 games at home, 2 games on the road. Weird MLB scheduling this year. But let's get into it. And I'm actually gonna throw it to my man Corey Favs. Corey Favs, you want to touch on Bears or Bulls?
Let's start off with the good. Let's go with the Bulls.
Let's start with the good. All right, go for it,
Yeah.
Corey Favs. Let's take a look at our Bull list for the previous 2 weeks.
Yeah, so right now on the Bull list, and again, we were mentioning his name a lot in our prior segment, Luis Hill. And look at that, 3-0 in the last several weeks across 18 innings, a 0.49 ERA, 13 Ks. He is the Bull of the week. Another name on top there, Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge, we gave a lot of talk to in the prior weeks, and not because he was doing good, but because of his slow start. Well, we all said, don't worry, he's going to turn things around. And guess what? He did. Over this 2-week stretch, 296 average, and OPS over 1.0, which is what you love to see. 4 home runs, 9 RBIs. And rounding out the top 5, we got 3 New York Mets. Brandon Nimmo was the big hero at the end of the weekend series, the last day of our Bulls and Bears timeline with the big walk-off home run. He has an OPS over 1.1, so love to see that. He's been one of the best hitters for the Mets as of late. Reed Garrett. This is a guy who really came out of nowhere to be a high leverage reliever for the Mets this year. He's actually been their best reliever this year. Granted, I still would take Edwin Diaz, but right now, Reed Garrett is the man. He's got the numbers. And rounding it out, a guy I'm so excited to talk about, Christian Scott. There was so much hype coming from this man over the last 6 months or so. I mentioned him in some of the off-season shows, a guy I want to keep my eye out. We talked about him a bit on one of the spaces before the season, and he talked about a debut. 2 starts, both quality starts, 2.84 ERA, one of which coming against division rival Braves. So you got a quality start in your second game versus the Braves. They'll take that every time. So very happy to see Christian Scott round out this list and hope to see you here again in the future.
Yeah, normally I go into Reed Garrett or Brandon Nimmo. I think we know what Nimmo is. He came in and had a pinch hit home run after we thought he could potentially be injured and heading for the IL with a side injury the other night to win it. But I'll focus on Christian Scott too. I mean, this kid's come up. He is the Mets' top pitching prospect. And, you know, I'm not trying to overhype him or anything, but when I see him pitch and what he tries to do, it reminds me of a little bit like Jacob deGrom. He has.
Stop it!
I'm not saying he's going to be deGrom. I'm not going to be, but he that arm side fastball that he throws into the hitter to right-handed hitters. He's got the slider and sweeper that drops off the plate, and that's what he is. He is a 2.5 pitch pitcher because the slider and sweeper are kind of a similar pitch. One's at 88, one's at 84, but that's what he does. He throws the fastball in on right-handed hitters and the slider and sweeper away, and that's all. That's it. It's the same formula the last 2 starts. So he's kind of developed that.
Just hate to see you embarrass yourself in front
I didn't
of
say he was going to be. I said he
you used the
a similar sequence that I watched
Jacob DeGrom's name
for 10 years. That's all I said. I didn't say.
Welcome to ESP, folks.
DeGrom.
Oh boy.
The big thing with Scott too is because you just go back like 2 years ago and you didn't really know who he even was. I didn't even know who he really was going back 16 months ago. It really was the end of last season into the offseason where you start to hear about him really start to rise up. All of a sudden, he was a guy not even in the Mets top 10 prospect rankings. Now I think it's number 3 at MLB.com. DeGrom was pretty similar in that instance where he was a guy who really came out of nowhere, even more so than Scott. DeGrom, you really didn't know who he was until he was just a couple of weeks away from making his debut. So at least that's one thing, too, in common. Both guys kind of came on pretty late when they were right about to make their debuts.
Quick couple of shout outs before we move forward. My guy Swift is in the building. What's going on, Swift? We got Damian Serrano doing great things over at Morning Brew Sports, involved with the Yankees pregame show, which from what I heard today is going to be going to spaces, I believe at 6 or 7 o'clock every day before the Yankee game. So real cool stuff that Damian's involved with Morning Brew Sports. And my guy, Mr. H.O., is in the building, and he loves frustrated Met fans. 107 people are here, and we thank you so much because I know there's a huge playoff game with the Knicks. It was mentioned the Liberty are playing as well. You got the Yankee game going on, so a lot of stuff happening. So thank you guys and gals for showing up for us tonight. Tom, when we look back at this bull list, I know there was touched on Christian Scott, but between Hill, I mean, we got to talk about Hill.
I want to compare Louis Hill to Roger Clemens's 1984 season. I think you see a lot of similarities there. And so basically he's going to be one of the greatest pitchers to ever live. So if you want to write that down.
All I said was the guy throws in a similar
Write it down. Louis Hill, 5-time Cy Young winner. Got to win MVP in a couple years. Got to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the numbers that Hill's putting up, and if you would have told me prior to Garrett Cole going down the IL that was Garrett Cole, I'd absolutely buy it. The numbers are eerily similar, and what he's doing right now has been fantastic. He is at the top of my trust circle rotation when it comes to the New York Yankees, and you look at that line over the last 3 games, he's been fantastic. And Aaron Judge, welcome back. Like Corey mentioned before, had no worries there. Good to see Aaron Judge back into the fold. But we got to go to the Bear side of the house. And Thomas, I'm going to hand the ball off to you, sir, to run down our Bear list for the last couple of weeks. Take it away, Tom.
Here's a bunch of stinky boys. We're going to start at the bottom, and we'll get to the stinkiest boy. Bottom of the list, we have Marcus Stroman. Been a little bit of a struggle as of late. He has, a 4 ERA in the last 2 weeks. Starling Marte, a guy that, Joe especially was hitting on the Mets struggles in the offensive department, and a big part of that is Starling Marte, a guy that you want to see get on base. You want to see running the bases. Not going to get on base a lot. If you have a 240 on base percentage, not really going to quite do it for you. Alex Verdugo, we have him in the third of the stinkiest boys list here. I had mentioned him a little bit before. He's been struggling a bit with the bat after the hot start, but he's someone as someone who is a contact hitter, you would think he's going to find his way through this. The balls will find holes eventually. He'll find some of that power stroke again. He went on the paternity list, came back. So that could have, maybe just kind of thrown off his timing a little bit as he gets back into things. Number 2, Pete Alonso, again, another Met struggling. And as we continue to see Mets fans takes on Pete Alonso, what's going to happen to him? Will the Mets trade Pete Alonso at the trade deadline? We'll see. That'd be pretty wild, I think. But these aren't Pete Alonso numbers. And then the number 1 stinkiest of the stinky boys is Jose Quintana, who I think Joe said was like a very good, solid starter at one point. So Joe's takes are aging as good as Jose's ERA. 14.09 ERA, 12 earned runs in the last week. Batters hitting .432. Not bueno, Jose. That is not bueno. Got to see better out of him as the Mets continue to see what they're going to get out of that starting staff. Corey Favs, his ERA hunt, his ERA watch is hurting right now.
Yeah.
It's the Mets boys are down bad.
Yeah, no, that hurts too. The Quintana ERA and my ERA watch for the team this week. But again, that's a big reason, part of the struggles too. In the first 3 weeks or so of the season, the Mets pitching was phenomenal. And overall, the pitching staff numbers, I'll look them up on the side now in a moment here. But thankfully, the bullpen, for the most part, has been helping them out. Outside of a couple of star pitchers are doing good. But Quintana, not pretty at all. And, of course, the one game where the Mets put up 8 runs, they lost because Quintana got absolutely obliterated and didn't make it out of the third inning versus the Rays, not last Friday, the Friday prior. So not happy with Quintana. And then, Joe, before I hand over to you, with Starling Marte, we mentioned it. The offense has not been good, and same thing that happened with Quintana is with Marte. The offense was doing pretty good, and Marte was doing pretty good. And sure enough, Marte has started to stink it up, and the offense has started to stink it up as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been rough for Quintana. Quintana's also at the top of a rotation when he really should be towards the back end of the rotation. Correct. He's a solid rotation piece to have, but he's going to have his ebbs and flows. I mean, he's not a top of the rotation guy, and the Mets are expecting him to lead their staff with Kodai Senga out. And I think that's a little too much to ask out of a guy like Jose Quintana. Listen, Pete was struggling. All of a sudden, Pete has turned it on the last 4 days. He's 8 for his last 20. But that doesn't excuse the fact that he went through a slump and he killed the Mets for a good week and a half. I mean, he was Rich. You could put the stat back up, but he was in an awful slump for a few days. He hit nothing. And again, overall, he was 7 for 43. Overall, Pete Alonso is the heart and soul of this lineup. If Pete is not hitting and driving in runs, the Mets are going to struggle to score runs. And the Mets got way, way too many guys who do this, who go into these kind of big slumps. They turn around, they break out for a week, and then all of a sudden it's back to slumping again. So the Mets need more consistency out of Alonso. I think Alonso's going to be fine. Everybody has a slump, but it just the Mets need a little bit more out of them right now. And listen, Marte's 35 years old, 34 years old. We don't expect Marte to be the old Marte who was an all-star. He's gonna be up and down as well. But you worry off of last year that when Marte goes into these deep slumps, sometimes it's an indication that he's not 100%. And that's the bigger concern with Marte. Not that he won't find it again, that he might be hurting or hiding something that, again, last year was an indication of when he was slumping pretty bad last year.
And I'll just make a quick note on Verdugo. It really hurt having to put him up as high as we did here on the New York Strike Exchange Bears of the Week, just because of the presence he's been for this team. He's been an electric person to have in that dugout. He's definitely that sort of guy that brings the guys together. That pseudo leadership that Brett Gardner had for a little bit in between the years of the old guard of Jeter and those 90s Yankees. But it's good to see a player like Verdugo try to be that guy for this team. And it's really nice to just have a left fielder. Yeah, he's hit a slide, so he does make our bear list here on the offensive side of the house, 171 average, but he does provide value in other areas that really helps.
Let's go quick around the horn. I always forget we should keep note of these, but prediction for a bull in 2 weeks that's currently not on the bull list. I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll take Gleyber Torres. Hit that huge home run yesterday. He's 2 for 2 today. And I would love to see him kind of get going, and maybe he can sneak his way into the bull list. What else we got?
I'll go with let's go with Clay Holmes. Clay Holmes will continue to do his thing. I think he's somebody that is always on the edge of that bull list. Maybe it will be that one more appearance. Maybe it'll be that one more strikeout that gets him in. I think he should be a bull here, but I'm going to go Clay Holmes. Joe?
I'm going to go with Luis Severino, actually, too, because he's actually been one of the better Mets pitchers this year. His numbers just fell short of making the bull list this week, but he's been giving the team a chance to win every game so far. So I'm going to go Luis Severino on the Mets side.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of guys I'm really confident in the Mets right now.
You can pick a Yankey.
So
you put Juan Soto up there if it's gonna make you feel good. Anything?
I might as well because there's no. Severino's a good one for Corey. I don't have much confidence in anybody on the Mets right now, so I'm not even gonna put Jeff McNeil's name out there. I'll go Francisco Lindor. Lindor's no. I got one. JD Martinez. I'll put JD Martinez on there.
Okay.
He's heating up, and the Mets need more consistency out of him if they're going to get this offense going.
I like that pick. JD Martinez, the guy, the no-hitter spoiler from the other night. So JD, the future bull. All right, Corey Favs, let's touch on X, and then we got to get into our new segment, Who's on Deck. Go for it.
Yeah, so on X, we are at 3,000 plus followers. I think now we're just over 3,100. So we're continuing to grow on the platform. Thank you again, everyone, for listening to us over there. Go ahead and follow us at ESB Podcast. We tweet various things throughout the week, whether it's updates for the show, general news about the Mets, Yankees, general news about baseball or New York. So go ahead, follow us on X. You can each follow our subsidiary accounts for the Mets and Yankees at ESPNYM, at ESPNYY for the Mets and Yankees respectively, and our individual accounts, myself at G Gorey, Joe at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J Rivera, and Tom at T Wospil on X.
Awesome stuff here, Corey Favs. And again, before we get to to our new segment here, Who's on Deck. Very excited to talk about some Yankees and Mets prospects here. A couple of other quick shout outs here. 161 River Ave, guy Jason. Hey, I'd like you guys to come on my channel as guests for some Yankees baseball talk if you're up for it. Oh, sorry, Corey and Joe. I guess you guys are going to be left off to the side. That's cool. But Jason, we're there for you. Me and Thomas are there. And give 161 River Ave a follow. They do great work over there. That's my guy, Jason. And we got Joey Bega Donuts, the host of the Morning Drive on Space. He does a phenomenal job. I'm sure he hates me right now for promoting the show. But yeah, give my guy, Joey Bega Donuts, a follow over on X. And then my guy, Dane Huber. Rich, my guy, guys, hit the like button for the fellas. Appreciate that. Dane over at NYY Underground. They do such an amazing job with Yankee coverage. They do in-game watch-alongs. They're fantastic. And Dane does a lot of the prospect coverage, not only with NYYU, but Yankees Farm, which is affiliated with NYYU, over with Los Peña. And speaking of Dane, I did want to mention this because Dane did show up. Next week, when we bring back our creator spotlight, Mr. Dane Huber himself will be on our show for that creator spotlight segment. That's next Monday, May the 20th. So shout out to my guy, Dane, and thanks for joining the conversation. All right, let's get into it. Who's on deck? And who's on deck for the New York Yankees and their future? What we're going to do here on ESB is we're just going to go around the room and highlight a prospect in our system right now, someone who hasn't graduated yet as an official rookie in Major League Baseball. But we do a quick go around on a few players that we'd like to touch on. I'll kick things off with our guy, Mr. Augustin Ramirez, currently in Double-A. Augustin Ramirez, a catcher in the Yankee system. He is on the 40-man roster, 22 years old, and the 20th ranked prospect according to Major League Baseball. You see the scouting grades right there. Love seeing that 55 power, 55 arm. And with when it comes to Augustin Ramirez, there's a lot of comparison to a former catcher of the Yankees, a controversial catcher, I'd say. Gary Sanchez has been a comparison to Mr. Augustin Ramirez, especially with the power and the arm. There is a slow release there that's led to a lot of runners taking bags on him, which he's got to work on. He's good with the blocking. It's just the framing right now is a struggle. So he does have to work on his defensive side of the ball, but this has been a breakout season for the Double-A catcher right now. 259 batting average, 11 home runs, and 991 OPS. Love to see those numbers from your catcher. Tom, we've talked about at length how much we loved Gary when we were doing shows back in the Savages and the Bronx days when everybody was crapping on our guy Gary. But hey, we could have a future Gary with better metrics here in Augustin Ramirez.
I mean, Augustin Ramirez would love to have what Gary had. You know, prospects are, prospects until they actually can do it. So he would sign up for that right now. Yankees have a lot of backlog of catchers currently. So it'd be interesting to see if he continues to hit well. Is this a guy who they try to move to a different position? Can he do something else? Or, do the Yankees eventually move on from, if Wells or if Trevino don't, continue to be what they want? So kind of interesting there to see what they'll do for that.
Yeah, Swift making the point here. 6 steals as a catcher on May 14th is crazy stuff. And, then you kind of think about, all right, when does Augustin Ramirez make an impact? Swift here mentions catcher of the future, he'll be up this year. And I don't know if that's going to be the case. It all really depends on the health of the Major League catchers right now. I think what the Yankees have going on right now with Austin Wells and Jose Trevino is more than fine from a lefty-righty counterpart. Nobody better in the game for Wells to kind of sharpen up his defense in with Jose Trevino, a Platinum Glove Award winner. I don't think Ramirez will make an impact for the 2024 team. Again, that's also barring an injury. This player is a 40-man roster member right now. But I would probably project this guy to be somewhere to the mid to late 2025. That would be my projection for Augustin Ramirez. Who's next on your side, Thomas, for the Yankee side of the house?
Next for me is a guy who actually has pitched for the Yankees this year, be it one inning, and that is Mr. Clayton Beeter. Yankee fans kind of remember that fifth rotation spot this year. It was truly a toss-up, and it seemed like a toss-up even as opening day was coming around between Clayton Beeter and Luis Gil. And Luis Gil won the job, and he has done, as we talked about, phenomenally in the role. We have Beeter's numbers here in AAA, which are also really good. And I think it's another option that if there does have to be an innings limit or something with Heel, Beater would be that next guy up for the Yankees. But what I find more interesting or more attractive for Mr. Beater here would be is if he ends up in more of that Michael King role. A guy that pitches maybe twice a week, but he gives you 40 pitches, he gives you 2+ innings, he has wipeout stuff, and eventually maybe that does translate into the starting rotation in the future. But although the Yankees bullpen has been good overall, there's still a lot of guys on there that you maybe don't feel as confident in as you would like to. And I think if you added a guy like Beater to that bullpen again in that role, that Michael King type role, I think that is a real difference maker. And if Beater is someone who, if by injury does not crack the rotation by post All-Star break or post All-Star break trade deadline, I would want to see him getting into that role, because if this is a Yankee team that's gonna hopefully make a run in the playoffs, I think Beater could be someone who really does impact that run.
The one thing with Beater that I think is a little bit of concern is the innings. He has a hard time in the minors collecting the innings you want sufficiently from a starting pitcher. I believe when I last checked, he was averaging just around 5 innings per start. One projection for Beater would be a back end relief role. And it's something that he did show a flash of early in the year, coming up for that 1 inning against the Arizona Diamondbacks. But hey, listen, you get any margin of success for a guy you traded Joey Gallo for, you're taking it every single day of the friggin' week. All right. Let's move on to the Mets side of the house. Joe Pugliese, we'll start with your prospect here. Joe, who's on deck for the New York Mets?
Yeah, I wanted to go with somebody that many Met fans might not have heard of. Nick Morabito. He was the Mets' second-round pick in 2022. Second-round compensatory pick. Actually, the pick that they got for the Angels signing Noah Syndergaard, believe it or not. And look at those numbers in the minor leagues right now. Betting 385. He just got promoted from St. Lucie to Brooklyn. He had 397 with a 530 on base percentage in St. Lucie. He had 11 steals in 24 games down there. Guy that kind of, to me, profiles kind of between Ben Rivera and maybe a Shane Victorino. Not really a power guy. He's going to make things happen with his legs. He's going to profile in that center field spot. He's not going to have enough power to play a corner outfield. So, a guy who's probably in this day and age going to profile more like a 4th outfielder for most teams. But if you're going to hit 385 wherever you are, you're going to get playing time. So he's the Mets' 20th ranked prospect right now. And
26.
He is 26th. I'm sorry, 26th ranked prospect right now. And like I said, he's already upgraded to high A ball in Brooklyn, and somebody to keep a lookout.
Nick Morabito. And again, one of the exciting things about this segment is I get to learn a little bit about the Mets side of the house. I mean, you're always talking about, your Acuñas, your Gilberts, your Cliffords, but Morabito had no freaking idea who he was until right now. Yep. Thank you for that, Joe. Love that. Nick Morabito and Corey Favs, who's on deck on your side of the house?
Yeah, I'm going to give a name that's been pretty hot on X as of late, and that's Brandon Sproat. He actually just got the call up to Double-A this week, so the timing is pretty perfect to have him on the show for tonight's segment. Number 13th ranked prospect for the New York Mets. He's not a young kid. He's a 23-year-old pitcher. That's because he did pitch a full slate in college, so he was a college senior when the Mets drafted him. Another fun fact, too, with Sproat, he's actually been drafted 3 times, twice by the Mets. The Rangers went to draft him out of high school in 2019. The 2020 season obviously did not happen because of COVID. Mets went to draft him in 2022 in the 3rd round, didn't sign, stayed for senior year, and then the Mets ended up drafting him in the next year anyway in the 2nd round. So Brandon Sproat, another guy who's rising up pretty quickly in the system. Numbers are great so far this year in just a few games, 107 ERA. But despite being 23 and rising up so quick, MLB.com does have him projected 2026, and that's really just because he's new to the major league systems, because he was a college pitcher for so long, just got drafted, making his professional debut this year at 23 years old. But he's got some good electric stuff. The big knock on him is the control. So he's got to hone in on the control, but he's got a live fastball. He's got a good slider, good changeup. And there's a couple of different ways you can go with the comparison. If you want to talk about guys with a big fastball and no control, I could list you 100 pitchers who didn't pan out in MLB history. I did see one tweet earlier that really went into detail. So I have to give a shout out to Isaac Grofman on X. He did a great job diving into Sproat earlier today. And he gave an interesting comparison just in terms of pure stuff and how his stuff looks. His fastball, the metrics aren't high. If you want to dive into real analytics, the metrics on his fastball aren't that great, but he has late run and he has that electric pop when it hits the mitt. And in terms of very similar pitchers,
Oh boy,
Max Scherzer.
Oh, Corey!
I'm doing
it. You think? Joe stepped in a big pile of poop, and then you say, "I want to step in that same pile of poop."
Tom, I just started out with 100 pitchers who profile with high velocity, low control. I'm just talking specifically on the comparison of the way his pitches move late in the zone, because Max Scherzer are very similar. He has a very terrible rated fastball, Max Scherzer, but he's a very good pitcher because of how it runs late, that fastball. Sproat's the exact same way, but the big difference is his control. He does not have the control to be a major leaguer at this juncture. He does have the stuff. Whether or not he puts it together will determine if this is a guy who makes his debut and is out of baseball in 3 years or has a 15-year career.
So just for the record, everyone, Joe compared one of the current Mets to Jacob deGrom today. Corey went with Max Scherzer. I compared my guy to a long reliever, and Rich went with a catcher who's been up and down. So let's see who's.
I started off by saying a top 100 names, low control.
I just don't know how you could see Joe step in it, and you could say that poop looks good. Let me step in it too.
Tom, doing this segment. If we're not going to do any projections, we should just ditch this segment. I don't give a crap who the Mets' third catcher is going to be. All right, I don't care who Jorge his backup's going to be on the Yankees. Why bother with this segment if we're not going to have fun with it? Oh, Maron, I can't take it.
Listen, I was gonna jump in and defend Corey. Listen, when we're talking about projection, we're not talking about what that career is going to look like. We're talking about makeup at the end of the day. So if there's something that Sproat matches out with Scherzer, I don't think what Corey's saying is Sproat's going to be Scherzer. There's a makeup that makes sense. Same thing with Joe with DeGrom, and that's honestly Ramirez and Gary Sanchez.
Goodness, look at the really poop on my friends. Let me step in this poop too.
Well, here's the other thing, Tom. I'll tweet out. There's a video right now that has Scott's wind up in motion next to Zach Wheeler's. They are identical. They literally identical. It doesn't mean that he's gonna be Zach Wheeler. It just reminds you of guys when you look at him and you say, "This is what this guy looks like." To me,
this is why these prospects have no chance of making it, because then they come up and they're not going to be Zach Wheeler, they're not going to be Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, and then you guys all get upset about it.
So hang on. Okay, so that's
nobody's going to be Jacob deGrom. We know that.
That's true. Most pitchers do pitch full seasons. So
let me ask this question then, and also I would be remiss to not add Dane analyzing it. Augustine and Clayton Beeter. Augustine is already on the 40-man. He'll be up next year, barring injury. And Beeter needs a more consistent third pitch to be a starter. He's a 97% fastball slider. So I mean, again, I know it's 8:58, and we probably want to move on to the next segment, but then this brings on a conversation. What are your guys' thoughts when those kind of comparisons are made on a young kid? Let's just take Anthony Volpe. How many times we heard the Anthony Volpe to Derek Jeter comparison? But let's talk about it for a second. But no, I'm using a generalization here.
No.
Hold on.
They compared Jason Dominguez to Mike Trout and Mickey Mantle. You have no reason to stand on Tom. They compared him to Mickey fucking Mantle.
I want to know. Show me the tape where I compare Jason Dominguez to Mickey Mantle.
I'm just saying, Mike Trout came out of your name when comparing Jason Dominguez. I'm just saying that. I'll find the tape on that one.
Find the tape. Doesn't exist.
Yes. So again, my
Just
overhead
Doesn't
conversation.
doesn't exist in any amount of seriousness that you were.
Screw it. We'll just save it for another time. But again, there is a talking point there when it comes down to comparing young kids and putting pressure on them, unfair pressure on them by comparing them to fan favorites, all-stars, Hall of Famers. But that'll be a conversation for another time. So let's save our ammunition for a couple of weeks because Corey and Joe got to wipe off some sweat. Tom, what are you doing to my guys over here? All righty.
I'll tell you what I'm telling you what I should be doing to you guys. Talking about sweat wicking. You're talking about performance fabric. You know you're talking about Roback here, rocking my Roback hoodie because it got a little chilly here past couple days. So I thought throw the hoodie on. Very nice and comfortable here. Roback, you've heard me talk about them, that they make the most comfortable like athleisure stuff out there. And as we are approaching Memorial Day weekend in the summer, their USA collection is continuing to roll out. If you've checked out Roback before, maybe didn't see something you liked, they come out with new styles almost every single day, and they are rolling out a lot of the USA themed designs. Just came out with a bunch of new ones today. I'm sure there'll be more by the end of the month. Again, polos, Q-zips, hoodies. They got some awesome women's stuff. They got some bathing suits. We talked about that pickleball paddles on there. Head over to roback.com. Use promo code TWOSPIL15 to get yourself 15% off your first order. I can guarantee that if Joe or Corey were wearing some Roback right now, the sweat that is pouring off of them from the flames, they would be wicked away and they wouldn't even know it was there. But alas, they're sweaty boys right now and uncomfortable as ever as I sit here cool as a cucumber.
I love it. 126 people in the building. I think it got the guys all fired up. It was about damn time we saw a little bit more Corey Favs right there for a second. I gotta give my flowers to Corey Favs for that one. Listen, when it comes to Joe and Tom butting heads, this is expected. That's classic Empire State of Baseball. When you get a stoic Corey Favs involved in the conversation and gives you the same passion he gives to those Instagram reels, watch the hell out. All right. I love it. Joe, you're right. The chat was concerned for you. Putting you on the DL and everything here. My guy Boogie Pugliese keeps getting excited about the niggas. He'll end up on the DL by the end of the show with an oblique strain. We just want to check
DL with some underwear stains at this point. The skids.
Oh, no, we don't want that. But let's take that energy over to the games. And for today, it is a player to be named later. Second time we're rocking out with this for the 2024 season. And this time around, it'll be Joe and I to take on to present the questions rather. So Joe, I'll get things started. I'll let you take a breather here. I'll get things started with the Yankee side of the house. Our player to be named later. We go trio of hints, and you got to guess who that player is based on those hints. Here we go. This player is actively pitching and has thrown in 13 seasons thus far. This player is a 2-time All-Star, 3-time Cy Young Award finalist, and a World Series champion. This player had a 2.69 ERA in his best season with an American League team and a combined 5.73 ERA in his worst season with an American and National League team. Who is our player to be named later? Let's start the clock.
Evaldi?
It is not Nathan Evaldi. 3-strike system.
Sonny Gray?
Let me hide the chat.
Incorrect.
Here. Hide the chat, boys. I know Joe especially. Known cheater.
3 guesses each, right? We get 3 guesses each.
3, yep. No correct answers in the chat thus far.
Johnny Cueto.
Never pitched for the Yankees, so that's your second strike.
It's not Carlos Rodon.
It's not Carlos.
Yeah.
Rodon. He does fit.
Similar, yeah. Similar with
enough seasons.
A World Series champion.
God,
still
Evaldi
no correct answer. Shout out to Michael Caputo.
Worst season with American.
I assume
no correct guesses in the chat.
They played for the Yankees.
Is it Aroldis Chapman?
It's not Aroldis Chapman. It is a known guy. I'll give a fourth hint. It is a known guy.
Rich Hill.
Not Rich Hill. All right, everybody's got 2 strikes. I might actually pull this one off finally.
I don't know if this guy played.
These are some serious hints too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, as in a effort to help teams solve this, you would think Cy Young Award Finals 3 times. We're not talking about a reliever. This has to be a starter. I know relievers get Cy Young votes, but they're not going to. I don't think they're
like
3
That's
times.
the only reason I thought it might have been Chapman, just because he was so
Chapman was
dominant.
the only one you could think.
Yeah.
Could have gotten there. I say that.
Chat,
I say
our
that.
chat keeps guessing inactive players here. It's an active player, like on a team in the majors.
2-time All-Star, 3 times.
Sonny Gray was a good guess too.
2-time All-Star.
Am I at the point to backwards K your asses?
I want like
One more guessing.
I love it. I love watching this.
Oh my God.
I can't.
James Paxton.
No, it's not James Paxton. Great guess,
That's a
but
good
nope,
guess.
Joe Cade.
Just because it was part of the trade, Max Scherzer, but he wasn't a Yankee. He was just part of the trade.
Yeah,
I'll just say this is not right. I'll say Jay Happ. I don't think he's active anymore anyway.
Great. That's a great guess. But it's not Jay Happ. The answer we're looking for here is Lance Lynn.
Wow.
Lance
Wow.
Lynn.
That's a good one.
Lance Lynn.
I always forget with Lance Lynn because he's always good for those crap years, but he's actually had a good career.
Good. Look at Hitman. Go Hitman. Hitman Lance Lynn, Jack Esposito Lance Lynn, and HL following up with Lance Lynn on the back end. So Lance Lynn, yeah, forgotten Yankee. Actually, from what I remember, Tom didn't do too bad in that 2018 season when he was acquired midway.
No, yeah, I think he was pretty solid. That was like, I feel like prime of Lance Lynn, just like kind of bouncing around. I guess he's always been that guy, just bounces around and does his thing. And I feel like a very forgotten Yankee because he was there just for that half season. Not even a half, right? It was a
When
real
was
trade
that season too?
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
That's it. All righty. So Joe, you have the next one on the Mets side of the house. Let's pull up your hints.
All right. So this player pitched for the Mets for 6 seasons. This player had a 51-48 record with a 4.09 career MLB ERA. And this player would leave the New York Mets in December of 2015 and sign with the team that defeated his former club in the World Series, the Kansas City Royals.
All right. Let's get the clock going. 3-strike policy. Steven Matz.
No.
Okay.
So he left the Mets in 2015. So he started around.
Corey's gonna have to get this, right?
Yeah,
Like,
started around.
Corey's going to get it eventually, I think.
Started around 09. At least.
Greg Holland.
The Mets.
No.
Not right. That's not right.
See, I'm thinking about that starting rotation. I'm like, unless, no, he didn't.
It's
John Maine.
not Bobby Parnell.
No. Strike 2, Tom.
No Bobby Parnell.
Nope. No Bobby Parnell.
Again,
not Matt Harvey, right?
No.
He isn't with 100 wins, losses, decisions. You would again assume this has to be a starter, or at least was a starter for a good chunk. That's a lot of decisions to get.
Oh, it's a 54. It's a oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you figure that's
Man.
Dylan G.
It is Dylan G.
Oh crap! It is Dylan
It is Dylan G.
G. He didn't really
Dylan
start
G.
in 15, I think, right?
He was either hurt or
Yeah.
whatever it was. He only
Damn.
pitched 3 games or 6 games for the
Dylan
Mets.
G.
Sierra,
Oh,
good
wow.
guess. She
Yeah.
got it very close
Wow.
to your time, Corey. But yes, Dylan G. The poor man's Greg Maddux.
Yeah,
Oh, my
Dylan
goodness.
G. And
There
he
we
was
go.
good for a few years. Or the
He
first
was.
few years were good, and then he just fell off.
It's hard to like you get pitchers when the team is bad that you wish you had a chance when the team was finally good.
Yeah.
Because they perform admirably. Like Dylan G's one of them. John Neese, when he was really
Neese was
going
the
well
other guy
for
I
a
was
few
thinking
years.
of.
But they were on such bad teams. And it's like, man, if these guys had gotten some run support, maybe they would have had a longer career. But yeah.
Anthony Volpe with a bunt single looking reminiscent of Ricky Henderson. I closed my eyes. I thought it might have been Ricky.
I guess
Neese was a good one. I was thinking Neese too.
Well. Yes, but good stuff. Dylan G is our guy there, and on the other side, Lance Lynn, and that is our show. So we'll see you next Monday. We'll be back for episode 85 for our normally scheduled Monday episode for May 20th. We will keep you guys posted for Memorial Day weekend. We're not sure if we're going to go live that Monday for Memorial Day or if we're going to push it to Tuesday, being a holiday. So we'll let you know next week when we kind of come to the decision. But next week, we'll be back on Monday. And make sure to tune in for our next edition of the Creator Spotlight, because Dane Huber, who was in our chat before, who's the expert on Yankees prospect with Yankees Farm and NYY Underground, is going to be joining us for that segment. So that's going to be a lot of fun to do that with Dane on the show next week. But as always, let's start things with our thank you train, or end things with our thank you train, rather. Starting with Corey Favs, then to Joe and Tom, and I'll wrap it up. Go ahead.
Listen, I just want to thank all the mothers out there for doing your thing, and happy Mother's Day to all of you. Hope you had a great weekend. And also thank you to the Knicks and Rangers for giving New York baseball some life in the playoffs.
Yes, sir.
Sports.
Joe.
Yeah, thank you to everybody in the chat. Combined on all three platforms, we had 128 viewers in the stream today. Fantastic job by you guys. Fantastic job and everybody in the chat. As always, we love you all.
Knicks currently up 63-47, getting close to half. So it looks like the Knicks are looking good. And see if they can, if they win this game, if they can close it out in a game 6.
Yes, to echo the sentiments of my co-host, I want to thank all 128 of you who joined us with a lot of big games happening in New York sports. Thank you so much. We'll see you here for next Monday's episode, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Take care.